days that we've been hearing about. I don't know if you're familiar with, we did 2 campaigns the year before, in 2014 and 13. We kind of dominated St. Pancras and Euston stations.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a big lift from those 2 campaigns in terms of people kind of going, oh, yeah, we want to go to Canada. And some of the tour operators that we work with in Britain are saying that, a weekend in Toronto is, a 4-day weekend, probably not a 2-day weekend, is something that people are considering doing more and more.
Checking it out before you check in on the John Guinn Travel Show on ukhealthradio.com. The advice given from the Foreign and Commonwealth Office in getting into Canada is as follows. Visitors travelling to Canada by air are now expected to get an electronic travel authorisation, or ETA, to enter Canada. Although this is in place now, you've got a little bit of leeway until the 29th of September. So you might as well get used to doing it now. And of course you need a valid passport. And your passport should be valid for the proposed duration of your stay, which is good, but if you've got less than 6 months left on your passport, it may take you longer to get through immigration control. The FCO doesn't say why, but it's something to bear in mind. I'm quite keen to go to Toronto at the moment, and my passport runs out in less than 6 months, so I've got to think about, do I get another passport or do I risk immigration? But that's a call you need to take for yourself. I will be putting a link to the ETA website when I put this podcast onto my Facebook page, facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show. It will be the official link. As always, when you're looking for electronic visas to visit a country, there are websites out there that may charge you more than you need to pay. Sometimes visas are free, sometimes there aren't. But there is always somebody who's trying to make some money out of it, so make sure you do use the right website. And as I say, I'll be putting the link at facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show. And now we're going to find out what other requirements you may need to visit, such as injections. Are there any compulsory or recommended injections that we need to visit Ontario?
Well, I think that not that I'm aware of.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the same as for us going to England. I think that travel insurance, I think that was one of your questions as well, advisable for everybody. I just think that's something you do, right? But there are no special sort of immunity things that you need to take. There are no needles that you need to take before coming to Canada from England.
Oh, that's good. I'm not very good with needles. I had yellow fever injection once and I collapsed. And
oh, that's not good.
That's not good. No,
I went to China a couple of times and there's quite a range of needles that you need.
I'll be no good. I'm 18 stone and 6'3", so I was quite heavy to pick up from the floor.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Do you have any tourist taxes or sales taxes that people should be aware of?
There is HST tax. It's 13% on every purchase, but I believe you're allowed to get reimbursed for it. But it's rather a complicated process for the part of it. But there's also a lot of duty-free shopping at the airport.
Yes, it doesn't matter where you are. The process of claiming the money back is always complicated.
Yeah.
We've talked about the cities and the forests and the snow, but is there much in the way of wildlife? Are you more likely to see a bear or a wolf?
Oh, my goodness, yes. So moose, you have to be careful driving in the north, especially at dusk. You'll see signs that say moose crossing and deer crossing, where there's a lot of moose and deer. Bears and wolves tend to be more private. The chances of seeing a bear in the spring is higher than seeing a wolf. You can actually go on a wolf howling experience where in Algonquin Provincial Park, they have public wolf howls where you can hear the sound of a wolf, and they do a sort of a naturalist-led interpretive program. That's quite popular. It's been going on for 53 years. They take place, however, only on Thursdays in August or in September before Labor Day, when weather and accessible wolves sort of permit. We have a huge monarch butterfly migration when they go from Canada down to Mexico. in just north of Lake Erie in the Essex Pelly Island area. We have moose safaris, sort of a guided trip in a canoe. We have a British and a German social media influencer visiting recently, and I think one of them was in a canoe, and they almost fell out of the canoe. He was so excited because he's in the canoe, and I'm going to say maybe 20 feet away is a moose looking at him from the shore. And that's quite popular. But I mean, it is, when you think of a population of 13 million, more than half of which live in the southern part of the province, and how big the province is, you've got wildlife all year round. We've got everything. The beaver, of course, is ubiquitous, and they'll plug up rivers and lakes here and there. A lot of beautiful birds, snowy white owls in the winter, falcons. I was just at a tourism event we held at the Union Station, because now I don't know if you know that to get from Pearson to downtown Toronto now, we have something called the Union Pearson Express or the Up Express. As a senior, I paid $6 Canadian. I think the regular price is $9. Anyway, we had a tourism event at the Union Station, and they had a peregrine falcon there that somebody brought so that people could get a chance to get up close. You can go, by the way, from Union Station to Niagara Falls. You can go to Montreal, to Ottawa. There's a lot of train travel in the southern part of the province. So we've got rattlesnakes. They're not very, I've never heard of anyone being bit by them, but they do exist. All kinds of reptiles. You can go, have you heard of muskie hunting?
I haven't, no.
Muskie. It's a fish that's so big, with a mouth that's so big, that they don't say that you go muskie fishing. They say that you go muskie hunting. And you do that in northwestern Ontario. There's a lot of beautiful lodges in northwestern Ontario and northern Ontario generally where you have to fly in, or you can fly in and spend a few days experiencing nature in the outdoors, quite in isolation from highways and roads and so on. If you visit ontariotravel.net, you'll get a chance to understand some of those. We also have you heard of glamping?
Yes, that's starting to become popular here, yes.
Yeah, so we even have yurt, Y-U-R-T, like from Mongolia. We have yurt camping and glamping. It's very much a Catherine Hepburn African safari kind of tent with a full bed and dresser and so on. And for people who aren't that familiar with camping at all, there's a company now out of Toronto called Parkbus, P-A-R-K-B-U-S, and they will actually take you to a camping area close to Toronto, and they will provide you can rent the basics for doing a bit of a camping trip. And a lot of immigrants and newcomers to Ontario are finding this a very good way for them to start to experience the province beyond the city.
You're listening to The Travel Show with John Guinn on ukhealthradio.com. The Niagara Falls actually borders Canada and America. If you spoke to the Americans, it's like the whole thing's in America and not in Canada. But anyway, you can see it from either side of the border. So the next question I asked Ronald Holgerson, who's president and CEO of the Ontario Tourism Marketing Partnership, was where the best place to view the falls from is.
We believe that I've done all of it. So if you're standing on the Canadian side, it's the most dramatic view that you can get. And many of the hotels offer a falls view. And I can't remember which hotel it is, but there's one hotel where you open your window and you're looking right at the water going over the top of the falls. Niagara Helicopters offers a 9-minute helicopter ride over the falls. It also takes you sort of over the river that goes from above the falls down to Lake Ontario, and you can see where there's sort of a whirlpool area, and you can do a whirlpool jet. On the clear day, you can actually see the whole horseshoe shape of the falls. The Hornblower is the new boat that sort of a catamaran boat. I was there for the opening. They have 3 of them. And they do cruises day and now evening. There's a dinner cruise, and they have fireworks during the summer. But The boat, because it's quite a strong boat, is able to go right until I think the end of October this year, and it's quite popular. And when I'm in Niagara Falls, I always like to plug the butterfly garden. Have you ever been to a butterfly garden?
No, I haven't. No.
Well, it's the most amazing thing. I've been to a few in Canada now. There's one on the north of Vancouver Island as well. But the butterfly garden, you walk in, and you're alone in a sort of an arboretum or whatever, a plant botanical garden, and there are butterflies that are sometimes like almost 12 inches across in their wingspan, very, very silently flying about. And they will actually land on if you're wearing a colorful shirt or sweater or something, they're likely to land on you. It's, anyone who doesn't like insects, this is not something to do. But it is a very unique experience, and it's quite amazing to see. But in Niagara Falls, you could go there for 2 or 3 days and have a lot of things to do. Mm-hmm. And, of course, there are falls in other parts. Near Thunder Bay, I mentioned earlier, there's Kekabeka Falls. There's a lot of waterfalls.
You said about it's quite easy to get around the state driving and stuff, but if somebody from the UK comes over for a fly drive, how safe are the roads? Is it easy to find your way around?
Oh, yes, very. I mean, there's apps for everything. There's GPS, there's maps. The highways are in very good condition generally. The highway to Niagara Falls and back is about 4 lanes going in each way. Mm-hmm. Of course, you want to avoid rush hour, so you have to time that. But you can drive on a sort of two lane going in each direction all the way up to Muskoka and heading into northwestern Ontario. I've driven myself from Oakville, Ontario, up to Orangeville, up to Blue Mountain and Wasaga Beach on a 2-lane highway. And there weren't a lot of trucks or anything, and it was quite charming. Rolling hills, beautiful scenery. I think I think all of North America is a very car-oriented place. Now I live in downtown Toronto. I sold my car, and I'm taking public transportation everywhere, and that's also easy to do. But there are places like if you wanted to go to Stratford and take a train, there's only a couple a day. So some of those are difficult. But what Stratford did was get a bus. So they have a bus that leaves from downtown Toronto. An hour and a half later, you're in Stratford. You have lunch. You go to a couple of plays and come home the same day if you like. But it's really, really quite easy. We just published a Best of Ontario Road Trips magazine with 8 itineraries, which you can find at www.ontariotravel.net. Mm-hmm. And there's also 8 additional itineraries that are exclusively online. And it gives you an idea of the driving distances, how many miles or kilometers. Of course, for Brits, they have to be comfortable driving on the other side of the road, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. You can follow me on Twitter at holiday_hut. As you know, when I talk about destinations, I always bring up food. As you know, when I bring up food, I always say a figure like mine takes maintenance. So that's that little bit out of the way. But yes, we are getting on about food now. So the next question I put to Ronald was, what's the food like in the province of Ontario?
Thinking about Toronto now, there's thousands of restaurants, and we are the world's most diverse city. There are 9,000 restaurants, ends up giving me the exact figure. And what's remarkable about Toronto and Ottawa, actually, is that the immigrant population is so strong from so many countries around the world that you can eat quality food from every country in the world. We have fabulous Italian, fabulous Chinese, Ethiopian restaurants, just about every culture. There's Greek culinary festivals. We have really, I can't think of any culture that I can think of that you wouldn't be able to sample the food. Mm-hmm. The key is to know where. And so that's the whole culinary scene in Toronto is quite sophisticated right now. But even if you go to Timmins or to Sudbury, there are now very interesting restaurants open. I was in a small town called North Bay recently, and there was a White Owl restaurant on the shore of Lake Nipissing. And it was the embodiment of a trend that's happening now called farm to table, where the owner of the restaurant also owns a farm. He raises his own chickens, his own pigs, his own cattle, I think, but I know chickens and pigs for sure.